Fox News alert from Capitol Hill now, where we are awaiting a Senate vote on a bill that would strip tax breaks that they now receive from the government. It comes on the same day that Democrats are launching scathing new suggestions that big oil is actually conspiring to intentionally run up gas prices. Listen to this.
Profit margins for refiners all of a sudden have nearly doubled in less than 6 months. Have doubled if you go back a year. That shouldn't really happen. We don't know if this is a smoking gun, but it sure requires a close look, because when you look at the evidence at the top, that's what it seems like.
All right, joined now by Bruce Vincent, Chairman and President of Independent Petroleum Association of America, and Eric Bolling of the Fox Business Channel. Bruce, let me go to you first. What's your reaction to this?
Well, Martha, oil is a global commodity, and oil companies don't have the ability to fix the price for gasoline in that sense. It's sold across the world. The national oil companies actually control most of the supply in the world. In the U.S., you've got over 18,000 independents that drill almost 95% of the wells in this country, don't have the ability to control the prices. The price of oil is fundamentally rooted in supply and demand, but also affected by the value of the dollar, also affected by political turmoil, particularly in the Middle East.
All right. Well, you know, Eric, this information that Claire McCaskill is citing, she's one of the senators who signed on to this letter calling for an investigation. They want the FTC to do an investigation of these oil companies because the charge here is that they are intentionally refining less so that, you know, to drive up the prices. And she says that the refineries are at 81.7% of capacity and that capacity rates are down 7% since last year. What say you?
Well, first of all, let's talk about what Mr. Schumer first. His point was that oil companies, he's pointing the finger at big oil, but then referring to the refiners. Now, our Independent Dealer Association representative will tell us the oil companies don't refine the vast majority of the gasoline that we're using in our cars. Refiners are. So he's pointing the finger at one group, but placing the blame on another. The point Claire McCaskill is saying, yes, there are barrels of oil available to refine, and the refinery utilization number varies between maybe a high 70s number to a 91%, so they could be refining more gasoline. I think, if anything, take a look at the refiners and unfortunately, the dealers that Mr. Vincent represents, rather than the big oil companies. Big oil is right now just a scapegoat right now, an easy target in a populist outrage about a $4 a gallon of gasoline.
What do you say to that, Mr. Vincent?
Well, the other thing to remember about refineries, though, and I don't represent refineries, I represent producers in this country who drill the wells that produce the oil and natural gas and deliver the oil to the refineries. But this is the time of year a lot of refineries have had downtime trying to do their maintenance, getting ready for gasoline season as we move into the summertime.
Right, and that's an important point. It's called turnaround. There's a couple turnaround points during the year. So it'll dip. So Claire McCaskill picks a month where there's a lot of refinery turnaround. They do maintenance. They switch over blending from a winter to a summer blend, etc. So it's a little disingenuous to point out one specific point.
Yeah.
It's still running in the 80s and in mid-80s or so. So we're putting out a lot of gasoline. I apologize to Mr. Vincent. I was under the impression he represented the dealer network. But the drillers, there's no reason to point a finger at drillers. The drillers aren't at fault here.
I hear you. And I want to move on to the second subject in a second here, but just one more question on this to both of you. You know, to answer the basic premise that anywhere along the stream, anywhere along the stream, from the refiners to the drillers to the gasoline distribution companies, is anybody tightening up supply to drive up the price of gasoline at the pump for Americans right now? Mr. Vincent, how do you answer that?
Well, nobody would be doing that intentionally whatsoever. It's driven by these other fundamentals, the supply and demand of the product, the value of the dollar, and the political turmoil in the Middle East.
Eric?
I would totally agree. I mean, we have congresspeople, senators on the Hill pointing the finger at the drilling companies when the bottom line is all the free money floating around, all the printed money throwing to the economy is driving prices for everything up. A gallon of gasoline, a gallon of milk, a cotton T-shirt. So prices are going up not because of the amount of oil coming out of the ground, because of the free money floating around that they're printing.
Yeah, and it's interesting to note that right now gasoline futures are actually lower. And the price of oil is actually in decline at the moment. But I want to get your thoughts on the political question here, because this is huge. Democrats are looking at this situation. They're saying if people are still paying more at the pump, when election season comes around, they're going to point the finger and say that we didn't do enough. President Obama is now saying that he wants to drill in more places in Alaska, expand drilling in the Gulf as well. Mr. Vincent, do you see that this is politically motivated, and can it do anything to change the price that people are paying at the pump?
Well, it can in the long run, and we're certainly encouraging his comments, but we need to turn words into actions. Presidents for decades have talked about achieving energy independence and reducing our imports, but we still import over 50% of our crude oil needs. Energy is not a partisan issue, but we turned it into a partisan issue when we started talking about solutions. We need to develop a long-term policy and stick to it through the political cycles and through the cycles of high and low prices. Conservation is one of the things that individual Americans can do, and do it when prices are high, but every time prices go lower, they stop thinking about that.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. And I've got a lot of people sending me tweets at Martha MacCallum on this. Give me your thoughts, because you're very divided on this issue as to who do you think is to blame here and what should be done about it. Eric, thank you very much. Mr. Vincent, Bruce Vincent, thanks to you as well. All right, on to this now. From a $3,000 a night hotel